The Samsung Galaxy S8 is finally here. So it's been officially unveiled by Samsung last week, and you can already pre-order the S8 or the S8 Plus. So it officially comes out on April the 29th. So just a few more weeks until the Samsung Galaxy S8 is officially here. And since we now know every single detail of the Samsung Galaxy S8, let's see how it compares to something like an iPhone 7 or an iPhone 7 Plus. So in this video, I'll be doing an in-depth comparison between those two ahead of the release. So everything when it comes to the display, the design, the camera, specs, special features, models, capacity, price, everything you need to know is covered in this video. So yeah, enjoy. Okay, so starting off with section number 1, we have the design. So when it comes to the design is actually the biggest difference between those two phones. So the iPhone 7 basically retains the exact same design as the iPhone 6s and the iPhone 6. So we have glass on the front and aluminum on the back. And apart from 3 new colors, jet black, matte black, and then also this brand new red color. Apart from that, and also the removal of the headphone jack, the iPhone 7 basically remained unchanged design-wise from the iPhone 6s and the iPhone 6. And same goes for the Samsung Galaxy S8 and the S8 Plus. So we have glass on both the front and the back, just like with the S7 and the S7 Edge. However, now both models of the S8, so the S8 and the S8 Plus, are now curved, so no more flat version anymore. However, the biggest change when it comes to the Samsung Galaxy S8 is actually the display size. So the display size has been hugely increased. So on the Samsung Galaxy S8 we have a 5.8 inches display. That's from 5.1 inches on the S7 from last year. And then on the S8 Plus we have a 6.2 inches display. That's again a massive increase from the 5.5 inches display that we had on the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge. So basically in 2017, Samsung's smallest flagship, the Samsung Galaxy S8, is larger than Samsung's largest flagship in 2016, the Note 7, because yeah, 5.8 inches on the S8, and then we had 5.7 inches on the Note 7. And when compared to the iPhone 7, this is an even bigger difference because we have a 4.7 inches display on the iPhone 7 and then a 5.5 inches on the iPhone 7 Plus. So that's a massive difference, 5.5 inches versus 6.2 on the S8 Plus. Now with the S8, Samsung actually did something really interesting. So they completely removed the button, the home button, and also the back and the multitasking ones. And instead of being capacitive and physical, they're actually on screen now. They also managed to reduce the bezels to almost nothing. And just take a look at this, the Samsung Galaxy S8 with a 5.8 inches display is so much smaller than the iPhone 7 Plus with a 5.5 inches display. And then even the S8 Plus is almost the same size as the iPhone 7 Plus. It's actually a tiny bit taller, but not as wide as the iPhone 7 Plus, so it's easier to hold in the hand. But then it comes with a 6.2 inches display versus the 5.5 inches that the iPhone 7 Plus comes with. I mean, the iPhone 7 looks good. However, when you compare it to something like an S8 Plus, the S8 Plus seems like the phone of the future, whereas this thing seems like the phone of the past. At least design-wise, there's no competition. The S8 is the clear winner. Having a 6.2 inches display in a 5.5 inch form factor is just crazy and amazing at the same time. So yeah, S8 full on-screen buttons now, it's like on the Google Pixel and on so many other Android smartphones. And on the iPhone 7, we still have the home button. However, it's not clickable. It's not a physical home button anymore. When you press it, it simply gives you the impression that you've pressed it, it's fixed. On the iPhone, the home button is basically there just for Touch ID. Now, speaking of Touch ID, a pretty big downside on the Samsung Galaxy S8 is actually the fingerprint reader. So we've seen previously a lot of patents from Samsung showing a way of including the fingerprint reader right into the display assembly, which would have made a ton of sense for the S8, especially since you basically have no room on those bezels for a fingerprint reader. Now, for some reason, most likely production issues, Samsung didn't include a fingerprint reader into the display assembly. Instead, they actually included it on the back, and it's not even in the middle on the back. Instead, it's on the right-hand side next to the camera. So yeah, a lot of the times you will actually be touching the camera instead of the fingerprint reader. So this is a pretty big inconvenience when it comes to the Touch ID, the fingerprint reader positioning on the Samsung Galaxy S8. Also, in case you care about the thickness, the iPhone 7 Plus comes in at 7.3mm thick, whereas the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus comes in at 8.1. So the S8 Plus is a tiny bit thicker, but yeah, not by much. And overall, I would say that the iPhone 7 looks awesome, but then the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus just looks amazing. It's not perfect, but it's definitely the best looking phone on the market right now. Moving on to section number 2, we have the display. So when it comes to the display, apart from the actual display size, which is a pretty big difference, 4.7 inches, and then 5.8, and then 5.5, and then 6.2. So this is a pretty massive difference, but apart from the actual display size, we do have some other major differences as well. So in terms of the display resolution, on the iPhone 7, we have 1334 by 750, and on the iPhone 7 Plus, we have 1080p. So that translates to 326 ppi on the iPhone 7 and 401 on the iPhone 7 Plus, which I would say is pretty good. It's good if you don't compare it with the Samsung Galaxy S8. So the Samsung Galaxy S8, both of them come with a W Quad HD Plus display, so that's 2960 by 1440, so that's even higher than Quad HD, and this translates to a PPI of over 500 on the S8 and the S8 Plus. Now, unfortunately, this is a slightly bit lower than on the S7 and the S7 Edge from last year, but even that is still an insanely high PPI. I mean, when you take a look at high-resolution photos, it's so much better than the iPhone. Images are so much sharper, text is so much cleaner. You actually have to compare these things in person to actually realize the difference in resolution. Now, this also means that the Samsung Galaxy S8 is a VR-capable phone. Now, I'm not saying that the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 7 Plus are not. They obviously are, but since they have a much lower resolution display, and also since you don't actually have a dedicated VR headset sold by Apple on the Samsung devices, you have the Samsung Gear VR. On Apple devices, you have to use some third-party accessories or maybe even the Google Cardboard. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to VR, not even Quad HD or 2960 by 1440 is enough, because even on the S7 Edge, you can see pixels all over. And yeah, on the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 7 Plus, it's way worse. Okay, other differences when it comes to the display, well, there's quite a few. So unfortunately on the S8, we don't have an RGB matrix display, so it's still a Pentel matrix display, just like on the S7 and the S7 Edge and the Note 7. On the iPhone 7, we do have an RGB matrix display, so this actually means more blue and red subpixels. So even though the iPhone 7 Plus is only 1080p, it's actually not as bad as you would think in VR when compared to something like an S7 Edge. It's still worse, but it's not as bad as you would think. It's not twice or 3 times as worse. Other than that, on the Samsung Galaxy S8, we have an 18.5 actually by 9 aspect ratio, which is a pretty weird aspect ratio. On the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 7 Plus, we have a 16 by 9 aspect ratio. Now, the upside to this is that the phone is actually taller, the S8 and the S8 Plus, and if you're, let's say, browsing, if you're using certain apps, you will get more upper screen real estate, so you can actually see more things on the display. But the biggest downside to this 18.5 by 9 aspect ratio is when watching movies or YouTube videos, for example, because most videos are 16 by 9. So when you watch those videos, you will actually get some black bars on the sides. So yeah, you basically get those bezels back. Now, Samsung does give you a crop function, so you can increase the size of the video to fill up the whole screen. However, you do lose a section of the video because it basically zooms in and then crops, obviously. And then apart from this, probably the biggest display difference is the actual display panel. So on the iPhone 7, we have an LCD display, and then on the Samsung Galaxy S8, we have an OLED, a Super AMOLED display. So the difference between those two displays is just huge, because on the iPhone, you need a backlight to light up all of those pixels, because the pixels, they only give the color, they don't give the backlight. And then on the S8, since you have an OLED display, the pixels give both the color and the backlight. So this means that you can turn off individual pixels, so the battery life will be better if you have, let's say, a black background, or you can have something like an always on display, which is a huge plus over the iPhone. And then obviously black levels are perfect since the pixels are actually turned off, and then you also get infinite contrast, so there's no comparison between the iPhone's display, LCD display, and the S8's display. By the way, the display that Apple uses on the iPhone 7 is actually the best LCD display on any smartphone right now. I mean, it's amazing for an LCD display, but OLED is just superior when it comes to black levels and overall contrast. Oh, and the Samsung Galaxy S8 also supports HDR10, true HDR10, and Dolby Vision, which is really impressive for a phone. This is the first phone, by the way, that can do that, and yeah, it's really impressive considering this is not a TV, it's a phone. And yeah, it's also much brighter than the S7 and the S7 Edge. So yeah, when it comes to the display, there's simply no comparison between these two. You actually have to see those two in person to realize how amazing the display on the Samsung Galaxy S8 or even the S7 is. Moving on to section number 3, we have the specs. So when it comes to the specs of these phones, the iPhone 7 simply looks horrible on paper. So it only comes with 2 GB of RAM, the iPhone 7, and then 3 GB on the iPhone 7 Plus, and the S8 comes with 4. And then you have the Chinese version, which actually comes with 6 GB of RAM. Then the iPhone 7 also comes with the Apple A10 processor, which is a quad-core 2.35 GHz chip. But then the Samsung Galaxy S8 comes with a Snapdragon 835, or that's in the US, by the way. If you're in Europe or for the Asian markets, it comes with the Exynos 8895. So both of these are 2.35 GHz octa-core processor, so you have 2.35 GHz quad-core processors inside. So again, on paper, the iPhone 7, the Samsung Galaxy S8 seems to simply blow the iPhone 7 out of the water. But in fact, it's actually the other way around. So the Geekbench scores for the Samsung Galaxy S8 for the Exynos 8095 model have actually been leaked. And if you take a look at these scores, they're pretty similar to what we had on a Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge, so not a massive improvement. But when you compare these to something like an iPhone 7 or an iPhone 7 Plus, there's simply no comparison, at least not on the single core side. Now, Apple is claiming that the Apple A10 chip is actually the world's most powerful mobile processor, and from what I've seen, that's actually true. So the Apple A10 actually managed to outperform a 2013 and a 2014 15-inch Retina MacBook Pro that come with a Haswell i7 quad-core 2.3 and 2.5 GHz processors. Yeah, I did some benchmarks and a 4K video export test, and this thing was actually faster than that i7 quad-core Haswell processor. So really, really impressive when it comes to the Apple A10 chip. And then even when it comes to the amount of RAM, the iPhone 7 with only 2GB of RAM, and even the iPhone 6s with also 2GB of RAM, managed to heavily outperform something like a Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge or a OnePlus 2 with 4GB of RAM. In my ultimate performance test, they managed to keep more apps open in the background, whereas the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge and OnePlus 2 struggled with 4GB of RAM. Now, every single year, Samsung does make some improvements to TouchWiz or Grace UX. Grace UX is what it's called on the S8. But now on the S8, they actually added some even more features, such as the Bixby voice assistant. So this is a replacement, so to say, for Google Assistant, and this is always on. So now you have two voice assistants on the S8 that are active at all times. So this is, Bixby at least, is definitely going to take up a lot of resources. So yeah, don't expect the S8 to be amazing when it comes to RAM management, especially since, one, you have Bixby, you also have more features which are always active apart from Bixby, and then you also have the exact same amount of RAM as on the S7 Edge. So no improvements here. Speaking of no improvements, section number 4, we have the camera. So unfortunately on the Samsung Galaxy S8, we have the exact same camera module as on the Samsung Galaxy S7 and the S7 Edge. Now, that camera was actually really, really good. But this is the first time that Samsung actually doesn't make any significant changes to their smartphone cameras. Yeah, every single year we've seen some pretty big changes when it comes to the camera on their Galaxy S lineup, but just not this year. Now, the only improvement that we did get on the Samsung Galaxy S8 camera is an 8-megapixel front-facing camera up from 5, and then we also got a new ISP, or a new image signal processor. This is about 40% faster on the Exynos 8095 models, and then it's also faster, I'm not exactly sure by how much, I think it's about 25% faster on a Snapdragon 835 models. But apart from that, it's essentially the exact same camera module. So when it comes to the resolution, it's 12 megapixels on both the iPhone 7 and the Samsung Galaxy S8. It's also an f1.7 aperture on the Samsung Galaxy S8, same as on the S7, and then f1.8 on the iPhone 7. So yeah, the Samsung Galaxy S8, same as with the S7, is actually slightly better in low light than the iPhone 7 is. Now, the biggest camera difference between those two phones is actually on the iPhone 7. So the iPhone 7 Plus comes with that dual camera module. So you basically have two lenses. One of them is a telephoto lens, and the other one is basically a wide angle lens. And this allows you to actually zoom in optical zoom twice without losing any image quality. And then you can also use digital zoom for up to 10 times the zoom. And then you also have this really awesome portrait mode that gives subject this really nice bokeh effect. Now, when it comes to video recording, we have 4K at 30 frames per second on both. And then we have 1080p at 60 also on both. And then on the iPhone 7, we actually have two more options. So we have 1080p at 120 frames per second and 720p at 240. So the iPhone 7 is much better when it comes to slow motion. Now, interesting enough, with the front-facing camera, the story is actually a bit different. So on the iPhone 7, you can only shoot up to 1080p 30 frames per second, whereas on the Samsung Galaxy S8, you can actually shoot, same as on the S7, you can actually shoot up to 1440p. Also at 30 frames per second. So overall, the iPhone 7 actually has a better overall camera than the Samsung Galaxy S8. And that's not just because of that dual camera module or the fact that you can record better slow motion and 1080p 120 and 720 at 240, but also because the iPhone 7 can actually record in a much higher bit rate when it comes to 4K video, so up to 100 megabits per second, whereas the Samsung Galaxy S8 caps at around 80. So that's a pretty big difference if you care about 4K video. And then iOS has so many more photography and video apps, and apart from this, professional apps such as Filmic Pro, for example, you have way more options on iOS than you do on Android. Then you also have devices such as the DJI Osmo Mobile Stabilizer, which has all the features on iOS and only just a few features, about 40% support on Android. Then moving on to section number 5, we have special features. So let's take a look and see what features make each of these phones unique. So the only big, let's say, common feature would be water resistance. So on the Samsung Galaxy S8, we have an IP68 water resistance, and on the iPhone 7, we have IP67. But then when it comes to all the features, on the Samsung Galaxy S8, we have a ton. So we have a microSD card support, we have Bluetooth 5.0, We also have USB Type-C support. We also have USB 3.1 support through that USB-C connector. The new iris scanner, then also face unlock, also a heart rate monitor on the back, and also an oxygen level meter on the back. Then we also have Gorilla Glass 5 on the S8. Then we also have more premium headphones, AKG tune headphones in the box. And then you can also purchase a Gear VR, which Apple doesn't offer a VR option yet. So yeah, Gear VR, and then you can also buy the new DX dock, which allows you to basically turn your Samsung Galaxy device into a computer by connecting it to a monitor or a keyboard and a mouse. So the Samsung Galaxy S8 comes with a ton of features, including wireless charging, which I forgot to mention, by the way. When it comes to the iPhone 7, we will have that haptic engine, a 3-touch display, the dual camera module, dual stereo speakers on the front, unlike the mono speakers that we have on the S8, also a Retina flash. So yeah, when it comes to all the special features, the Samsung Galaxy S8 has a ton more features than the iPhone 7. Then moving on to section number 6, we have the software. So on the iPhone 7, we have iOS 10, and on the Samsung Galaxy S8, we have Android 7.1.1 Nougat, and then we also have Samsung's overlay, which is TouchWiz. Well, it's actually called Grace UX, and this is how it looks on the Samsung Galaxy S8 now. So it's been slightly redesigned. It definitely looks more modern than before. However, Samsung has always struggled with basically 3 things when it comes to TouchWiz. So the first one was fluidity. Since on TouchWiz you have so many background things running all the time, now you have Bixby, and all of those things that are running in the background, they do take a lot of resources, and TouchWiz was really laggy when compared to even stock Android. And the second issue of TouchWiz is, as I said before, lots and lots of bloatware. And speaking of bloatware, you have so many apps made by Samsung that you don't need. So for example, you have 2 calendar apps, you have 2 notes apps, you have 2 gallery apps, 2 email apps, and yeah, 2 payment apps, Android Pay, Samsung Pay. And yeah, I mean, I could go on for so much longer. Overall, iOS is more simplistic and also much more fluid than Samsung's TouchWiz. However, you have way more features on Samsung's TouchWiz, or what's now called Grace UX. Lots of features, way more than you actually need, and also lots of bloatware and okay-ish performance. Next up, let's talk about the battery life. So unfortunately, the battery life is actually worse, at least the size of the battery on the Samsung Galaxy S8. So on the S8, we have a 3000 mAh battery versus the same 3000 on the S7. And then on the S8 Plus, we have a 3500 mAh battery versus the 3600 mAh battery that we had on the S7 Edge. So actually lower than on the S7 Edge. So yeah, the battery size on the S8 doesn't seem that impressive. And then on the S8 versus the S7, we also have a much larger display, which is also brighter and also supports HDR10. So in theory, the battery life on the S8 should be significantly worse than on the S7. Now the iPhone 7 Plus has a 2900 mAh battery, and from all the phones that I've used, this phone has the best battery life overall. This thing is just crazy. Now the good news is that we actually have some actual real-life battery life tests for the Samsung Galaxy S8. So Phone Arena just posted a full battery life test on the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus, and as you can see, it's actually better than the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge. Now the iPhone 7 Plus still outperformed even the S8 Plus, but yeah, I was expecting the S8 and the S8 Plus to last actually less than the S7 and the S7 Edge, but apparently that doesn't seem to be the case. So yeah, good news about the battery life, but the iPhone 7 Plus is slightly better. Then moving on to the models and the colors, when it comes to the colors, we now have 6 different colors to choose from on the iPhone 7. So we have the classic matte black, then we have that special jet black. We also have a new color now, a red color, a product red version of the iPhone 7, then silver, gold, and rose gold. So yeah, 6 colors to choose from. Now the S8 actually doesn't have that many colors, so you only have 2 colors to choose from in the UK. So midnight black and grey orchid. Then in the US you have 4 colors to choose from. You also have a blue and an Arctic silver one, and then for the Asian markets you have a couple more. Now for some reason all the S8s, all the colors come with a black front, so that's a bit weird considering that the S6 and the S7 actually came with, let's say, a gold front if you chose the gold model. And then when it comes to the models and the capacity, the Samsung Galaxy S8 definitely wins here. So the baseline option and the only option is 64 gigabytes compared to the iPhone, on which it's 32 gigabytes. Now on the iPhone you can upgrade this to 128 and even 256, but then on the S8 you have the option to expand that 64 gigabytes with an optional microSD card because it has a microSD card slot. But keep in mind that the external storage speeds are much slower than the internal storage ones, and also the S8 unfortunately doesn't support UHS 3 and not even UHS 2, so we still only have UHS 1 support when it comes to microSD cards. Finally, when it comes to the prices, these two phones are definitely not cheap. So So the iPhone 7 starts at £600 in the UK and then $720 for the iPhone 7 Plus. The Samsung Galaxy S8, however, starts at $690 and then $780, so quite a bit more expensive, quite a lot more expensive than the iPhone 7. Now the S8 is actually a much better deal than the iPhone 7 because one, it comes with 64 gigabytes of onboard storage as the baseline model, then you can obviously expand that even further, and then also even the S8, the smallest model, comes with a larger display than the iPhone 7 Plus, so the largest iPhone model. So yeah, if you compare them like that, iPhone 7 Plus and S8, the S8 is actually cheaper than the iPhone 7 Plus, and yeah, it comes with a larger display and so many more features and so much more storage and expandability than the iPhone. Okay, so overall, which one is better? Which one should you get? And I would say get the Samsung Galaxy S8. And that's because it's newer than the iPhone, and it also looks so much newer than the iPhone just because of those almost non-existent bezels. Comes with so many extra features when compared to the iPhone. And then yeah, the iPhone has better performance overall and more camera features overall. But then if you really want an iPhone, don't get an iPhone 7 now, simply wait for the iPhone 8, which will be released later on this year, and that's going to be a pretty big change when it comes to the design. So the iPhone 8 is also going to have an almost bezel-less design. I've done a couple of videos, a couple of leaks and rumors episodes on the iPhone 8 if you want to know more about the iPhone 8. Yeah, the iPhone 8 is going to be really similar in terms of the design with the Samsung Galaxy S8. But yeah, let me know in the comments which one would you pick and why. Also feel free to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos, more Samsung Galaxy S8 related videos. I'll be having some hands-on coverage pretty soon, so definitely stay tuned for that. And also don't forget to enable notifications on my channel by simply clicking on that bell icon next to my channel, and you'll be notified whenever I upload a brand new epic video. Also let me know in the comments if you're epic enough to make it until the end of this video by saying I was epic enough to make it until the end. And yeah, this was pretty much it for this video, so thank you all for watching until the end. I'm Daniel, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Zone of Tech, signing out. Cheers.